So this video is part 2 of the truss symmetry changes that were made to 2022 R1, and I'll be going through 7 different JIRA tasks of bugs that were fixed related to plating, symmetry issues, and other things. So this first plating symmetry issue was due to the internal wind forces in the members on the left side of the truss versus the right side of the truss being different because of the difference in bearing fixity, this bearing being pinned and this bearing being roller. Then that was causing some plate symmetry issues that you see here. And so what we've done in this R1 version is similar to what we have done in the past for drop leg trusses, and that is adding wind load cases that are duplicate to the existing ones, but the only difference being the bearing fixities are switched. So now we have double the amount of load cases that will ultimately make the plating symmetrical. And this is controlled by an E&B data setting, which is right here. The min pitch to duplicate wind cases and switch pin bearing. So anything over what is set, and the default is 12, anything over that in pitch, and that truss will have double the wind load cases. The next issue that we fixed related to symmetry, you can see that the reactions of this truss are very slightly asymmetrical, and the reason for that was that if you look very closely at this truss, this analog member right here was getting loaded for the top cord dead loads. So basically this load, this 14 PLF dead load, was not only being applied to the top cord member as it should have been, but also being applied to this tiny bottom cord member on just the left side, and that was making the reactions asymmetrical. And so that has been fixed, and so that's no longer being loaded. This next one has to do with asymmetrical heel plating when you have cantilevers, and for this particular truss, then you see that Studio is calling out some shear plates that were not only overlapping with other plates on the truss, but asymmetrical, and so we've gone ahead and fixed this issue. And when we were looking into this issue, it was found that if you increased that web member from a 2x6 to a 2x8, then it didn't need a shear plate, but that was found to be incorrect. So we have made sure that all of the cases, regardless of that web size, have a shear plate added when that is needed. This next one has to do with asymmetric heel plating when you have long scarf cuts like this. And in this particular case, so you have this E&B data setting max scarf length for one plate, and that is set to 12 inches. And so it turns out that this is a rounding issue in this background calculations of Studio. So this scarf length on the left side was measured out to be 11.99999 repeating inches, and the scarf length on the right was just a little over 12. And so now we have reduced the precision of that so that those will both be rounded to 12 and have the exact same plating. This next one has to do with asymmetric plating at hip joints, and this was due to a calculation error in the shear interface length of this right side. So it's a conservative issue. This plate is much larger than it needs to be, and this plate on the left is actually just fine as is. And if you see here in this image, this is the length that I'm talking about, and the correct shear interface length for this plate is 7.2, and it was being calculated as 1.9, which is why it was trying to bump up that plate to something much larger than it needed to be. So now these will be symmetrical in R1. So this next one has to do with drop top chord gable trusses, and there was an issue where sometimes one of the sides would add a tie plate in the middle of these two heel plates, and that was unnecessary. So that has been removed. And also I just wanted to note that the heel plating will completely change based off of our requested TTST 13404 to automatically apply the correct notched heel plating that we would apply in component review. So that heel plating is completely different now and more symmetrical. So this next one has to do with asymmetrical plating on non-structural gable trusses. You can see some of this plating is asymmetrical. So this also has gone through some refactoring because of that other JIRA task, TTST 13404. So not only is the plating symmetrical now, but you'll see some heel plating differences based off of what we've requested. And that is it for the issues in 2022 R1 related to truss symmetry.